Hello, this is Myrna and Jenn, read the Apocrypha. We're grateful to have you with us today. We do this once a week. We put out a new video. We're reading through Jubilees right now. We're on chapter 11. Come join us for a little bit of interesting times because we're right in this section right now with Noah. And he has passed away, correct?
Right.
He's
I was
passed
just going to say
away,
that.
and his children are now out and about, kind of having their own cities and doing their own thing. But at the end, it didn't seem like Noah had a lot of faith that his kids were just going to be stand up, righteous people doing what they were supposed to do according to God's laws. And let's see and continue to see what happens. And as always, if you really like and enjoy this episode and there are other episodes to watch, please subscribe. Please get this out there a little bit more because Myrna and I are having a fun time reading the Apocrypha. Woohoo!
I'm learning so much. I love it.
Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much about what is out there. So here we go. We're going to start into chapter 11 and see what's happening to Noah's kids. 1 through 3 here. And in the 35th Jubilee, in the 3rd week, in the 1st year thereof, Ru took to himself a wife, and her name was Orah, the daughter of the son of Kesed, and she bare him a son, and he called his name Seror. In the 7th year of this week, in this Jubilee. And again, disclaimer, we apologize for the pronunciations of these names.
Yeah.
And the sons of we try. And the sons of Noah began to war on each other, to take captive and to slay each other, and to shed the blood of men on the earth, and to eat blood, and to build strong cities and walls and towers, and individuals began to exalt themselves above the nation, and to found the beginning of kingdoms, and to go to war, people against people, and nation against nation, and city against city, and all began to do evil and to acquire arms and to teach their sons war, and they began to capture cities and to sell male and female slaves. And the son of Kesed, built the city of Ara of the Chaldees, and called its name after his own name and the name of his father. And they made for themselves molten images, and they worshipped each the idol, the molten image which they had made for themselves. And they began to make graven images and unclean simulacra, and malignant spirits assisted and seduced them into committing transgression and uncleanness.
All right.
I'm gonna say it's all falling apart kind of quick. Let's see.
Yeah.
What have we been reading, Myrna, that says, and you don't eat blood, you don't drink blood, you don't take the blood of man on earth. And what are the first two things they're doing? They're shedding blood and they're eating blood. I would have thought those would be simple. I would have thought those two would have been simple. Like, don't mess with the blood.
Yeah, it's like the parent has left the house and the kids have gone crazy. You know, it's like Noah dies and then all of a sudden they do whatever they want. They're not. It kind of makes me wonder if they really did not or ever had to make their own choices. Did dad tell them everything to do? So now they're just kind of doing whatever they want because they don't know how to make choices, which I mean, I would think not killing somebody and not eating blood, not hurting somebody else might have been something you were taught, but I don't know. Maybe they just are just being crazy. I don't know.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me. Now, did you look up and see what a simulacra
Nope, I was just about to look up what that word was and even how to pronounce it.
Because we do like to look up the words
we don't know.
Learn more about.
So I'm gonna listen really quick. So I guess it's simulacra.
Okay.
Yeah, simulacra. That's it, simulacra. And an image or representation of someone or something. So you could build a small scale simulacrum, which is the singular of a skyscraper, right? So you make like a tiny version of it to represent it. But simulacra, I assume, is the plural version of that. So they were making a lot of things.
Okay, so how can something being made be unclean?
Okay, Myrna, that's a very good question.
I mean, it could be like seductive or sexual in nature or whatever. Yeah. But to be unclean of it, maybe that's just how they say things. I don't know.
Maybe that's just how they say
it. It doesn't work in our language now, I don't think. But then,
yeah, like maybe it's simple in that because they were making a small scale version of something, an image of some sort, and worshiping it. Maybe that just in itself makes it unclean because they weren't supposed to be doing that stuff.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think it's specific enough of why they called it unclean, except we know that they weren't supposed to do it. They were being naughty.
Well, yeah, they were like worshiping it, I guess. Yes. I don't know. That's interesting. That's
it's an interesting phrase.
Yeah, it's an interesting combination of words.
Yes. Because you get graven images, which is different than unclean simulacra and malignant spirits. All three things are plaguing them. So one, you have graven images. Two, they're like making little miniature versions of things. And we have these malignant spirits that are still running around seducing them into committing transgression and uncleanness. We would never say that little evil spirits are helping us commit uncleanness. That's a weird way of saying it. But again, this is being translated, so
yeah. All right.
Interesting. Okay. They're being plagued. They're not doing their stuff.
It sounds almost to me now. Go with my brain.
Okay. Oh, I'm going.
Okay, we're supposed to keep ourselves away from things like that. So it makes it sound like they are not doing that thing, so to speak, that I'm assuming Noah has taught them how to know when it's not a good spirit, when it is a good spirit, because at this point we still know that there is some communication between heaven and the people on earth, right? That hasn't been completely shut up.
No.
Right? Because we still have the watchers and we have angels still helping, right? So it makes it seem to me like they don't know how, which I doubt that. I think Noah probably taught them how to determine which of the spirits to follow and which ones not to.
You would think,
or
because they really identified the little demons. They identified and talked with them to negotiate that 10% could stay, the other 90% had to go.
Well, that was an angel from.
So from
God
so then,
came and with Adam, with Noah.
To talk about
he was there too. Yeah.
So they understood the evil, they understood the good, they understood some things.
Yeah.
But nowhere in those 3 verses does it talk about that they were also trying to make sacrifices to God.
Right. And it doesn't say anything about, they know they're bad. At least whoever's writing this knows that they're malignant spirits. Right. And so I'm assuming they know they're not good, but yet they're still allowing them
to
seduce them. and commit these uncleanliness and transgressions. Okay. So it sounds to me like they're just not.
They don't care.
Apathy? They don't care. The apathy, or they're just not. It takes too much energy to protect yourself and keep yourself clean, right? It really does, to keep yourself out of trouble, and it takes some energy. It takes some time.
It does.
So I don't know what that means, but that's what my brain thinks about. They're just, it's like they're just not trying to do anything. They're just going with the flow.
Right.
All right. Let's move on. And the prince Mastema exhorted himself to do all this, and he sent forth other spirits, those which were put under his hand, to do all manner of wrong and sin and all manner of transgression, to corrupt and to destroy and to shed blood upon the earth. For this reason he called the name of Seroha. Okay, I'm assuming the name is Seroha. And he's calling him Serug. For everyone turned to do all manner of sin and transgression. And he grew up and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees, near to the father of his wife's mother. And he worshipped idols, and he took to himself a wife in the 36th Jubilee, in the 5th week, in the 1st year thereof. And her name was Milcah, the daughter of Keber, the daughter of his father's brother.
Okay. So cousin.
Okay. So Mastema, which is like the head bad dude that
chief little
we're
demon,
assuming that Satan has put in control, has been allowed, and this was read in 9, or was it 10?
I will
one
go
of the two
while you talk.
One of the two. There was a discussion that God wanted all the bad spirits to be sent to a place of condemnation. And he made a pact and said, why don't you take 90% and give me the 10%? And so the 10% bad spirits got to stay with Mastema to control all the badness on the earth. And so he took, whose son was that? Aura's son, through Ruah, which was a son, grandson of Noah. And he was Serug, and he changed his name to Serug. Serug, just so you know. And then he married Milcah, which was also a granddaughter of Noah. So it looks like Mastema is truly trying to complete his job that Satan has given him. All right.
And he's doing a great job, because he must shed blood upon the earth. That was his goal.
The place has gone to you know where, in a handbag.
It has.
All right. That's about all that was that I just read.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of family stuff there.
Yes.
Verse 7. And she bare him Nahor in the 1st year of this week, and he grew and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees, and his father taught him the researches of the Chaldees to divine and augur according to the signs of heaven. And in the 37th Jubilee, in the 6th week, in the 1st year thereof, he took himself a wife, and her name was Ijaska, the daughter of Nestag of the Chaldees, and she bare him Terah in the 7th year of this week. So the divine and augur, I'm going to look up what that word is, because it's spelled Augur, and I'm not familiar with that. So that means of an event or circumstance portend a good or bad outcome. So like an omen.
Okay.
So to divine and be able to see what the omens were according to the signs of heaven. Now remember, we have talked that there was a stone that got looked at that had information on it from the watchers about how to read the heavens and
Correct.
and all of that. And so we know from reading the first part in the Apocrypha that we read was about Adam and Eve. And Adam was able to read the signs and the stars and even know that Eve needed his help. So there's something about this that seems to be information brought forward. And he's apparently telling his kids, but he didn't want to tell in that story, he didn't want to tell Noah that he found the rock and could read it and understood it. So it sounds like some of this is being brought in to that. At least to me, it is.
Yeah.
That's like what it's referencing.
I think so. That makes sense to me.
And there's still just a lot of family now. And also remember that at this point, all of these are generations after Noah. Yes. So children, having children, marrying cousins, marrying relations. But apparently it's all within the Chaldees.
Yeah.
All within the son of Kesed.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And the prince Mastema sent ravens and birds to devour the seed which was sown in the land in order to destroy the land and rob the children of men of their labors. Before they could plow in the seed, the ravens picked it from the surface of the ground. And for this reason, he called his name Terah, because the ravens and the birds reduced them to destruction and devoured their seed. And the 12 years began to be barren owing to the birds. And they devoured all of the fruit of the trees from the trees, if it was only with great effort that they could save a little of all the fruit of the earth in their days. So
that sounds
he's
like famine.
Yeah, so now he's stopping their gardens from growing and their trees from growing.
Right. It's interesting, though, that Mastema was able to talk with the birds, that he was able to send the ravens and birds to do this. Like he had power to some degree to just to tell them to do that. Is that the way it sounds to you?
Well, I don't think he has had a veil, because he's a bad angel.
Right. So he
hasn't had a body, so he hasn't had a veil.
Right. Upon him, so that he understands that power, that relationship.
Right. Yeah. And I question, and this is just my little brain, how much of the veil is on them, because they still have connection with heaven. They still have people come down and teach them, right?
Well, yeah, and it doesn't seem to faze them whatsoever. Right now, can we just admit out there that if you had an angel come down and appear before you, it'd be like, what is happening right now?
Right.
Who are you? What is this? I don't think I trust you, because this is you got to convince me that you're from God. Where there, it was like, yep, Mastema, yep, we have an angel, yep, we have, like, it just seemed common knowledge and understanding.
And commonplace. Like,
very commonplace.
Yeah. So I don't think their veil is as, I don't know the word, thick as ours, so to speak. Ours.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
How about our veil of unbelief is greater?
Well, our veil is a veil of forgetfulness, not unbelief.
Yeah. I know, but there's a space where through generations, the scriptures in the Book of Mormon have said that they dwindle in unbelief.
Yeah.
And so it's like you start to forget stuff about the gospel that you've learned. They're forgetting about the ordinances from Noah. They're forgetting. So to me, that's a veil of forgetfulness, and not to be misinterpreted to the veil that comes over us as being mortals, which is what you were referring to. Yeah. I didn't put the right word there. Sorry for the confusion.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So basically the first famine.
Yeah, we're getting it.
Okay, so 13.
Correct.
15. And in 13. In this 39th Jubilee, in the second week in the first year, Terah took to himself a wife, and her name was Edna, the daughter of Abram, the daughter of his father's sister. And in the 7th year of this week, she bare him a son, and he called his name Abram, by the name of the father of his mother. For he had died before his daughter had conceived a son. And the child began to understand the errors of the earth, that all went astray after graven images and after uncleanness. And his father taught him writing, and he was 2 weeks of years old. And he separated himself from his father, and that he might not worship idols with him.
Okay, so it's here again. The timing is not
the timing is so weird, and we still haven't figured it all out.
Mm-mm.
So
because if my daughter had started writing at 2 weeks old, I'd be really scared of whatever, right?
Yes. And even if kind of looking, there are some guidelines in what we're reading that kind of show dates a little bit.
Yeah.
And this is even saying like he'd be like 3-4 years old, like ish. So we're like maybe not 2 weeks. So we're still not sure about that, but obviously really young. But he has a mind that says, and you guys are all cray cray and you've gone astray, and I'll have none of it.
Well, here we've got some of an idea here. It says that in 1876 a.m., she bore him a son. Okay. And then that son was 2 weeks of years old in 1890 a.m.
Oh, so that's even longer. Sorry, that's like 24 years.
Yeah, so
I did my math wrong. So like 24 years old would make sense to me. So if they're saying a week is 12 years, then 2 weeks would be 24. We'll have to see if that holds true as we move along.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Yeah. But yeah, so something has stuck in Abram's brain.
Yep.
That says that this is wrong. What is happening?
This is wrong
on the earth right now. And they've gone astray from the teachings of their father, right? So he's coming to some remembrance, or his brain is being pricked because of what he's reading.
Right. Oh, true. Because he was taught writing, and in order to write, you kind of helps if you read.
They kind of go hand in hand.
They do go hand in hand. I've never seen them fully separated, so that just seems logical.
All right.
Okay.
And he began to pray to the Creator of all things, that he might save him from the errors of the children of men, and that his portion should not fall into error after uncleanliness and vileness. And the seed time came for the sowing of seed upon their land, and they all went forth together to protect their seed against the ravens. And Abram went forth with those that went, and the child was a lad of 14 years. And a cloud of ravens came to devour the seed, and Abram ran to meet them before they settled on the ground, and cried to them before they settled on the ground to devour the seed, and said, Descend not, return to the place whence ye came, and they proceeded to turn back.
So is that
he's 14 years old?
He's 14, so that means that a week is a week is 7 years. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, that is
still trying to figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
But so it's interesting that he began to pray. So he understood prayer. I mean, you're right. There was a lot of writing that had been done and a lot of language and knowledge. So he's like, you guys got it wrong. I'm going to talk with God. But then he showed that he had the power to stop it. Because
he probably learned that he was able to control things, that we have a little brain, that we know we can control things. And that's what I said before. It just seems like they're just letting things happen and they're just doing whatever. But they're learning that they have a responsibility. He's learning to control things.
That he has the ability to command. Descend not is a command.
Yeah.
Go back from whence you came. Where did he understand he had that? Well, I'm going to say it helps if you're praying. It helps if you're not doing all of those things that men were told not to do.
Yeah. Well, and he's reading, writing, scripture. Right? He's probably reading things that have what we have read, right, in them, but then also more in-depth stuff that we probably haven't gotten about what God's plan is about this earth, right?
Yeah, I agree. Man, I wonder what his family thought about that one, because so much in the scriptures is, my younger brother is usurping my governmental control. I can't stand him. Bloodshed.
Yeah.
Happens a lot in the scriptures. It's a pattern.
Yeah.
So I guess we will see here what happens when he does
this. See it.
18. And a cloud of ravens came. And he caused the clouds of ravens to turn back that day 70 times. And of all the ravens throughout all the land where Abram was there settled, there not so much as one. And all who were with him throughout all the land saw him cry out, and all the ravens turned back. And his name became great to all in all the land of the Chaldees. And there came to him this year all those that wished to sow, and he went with them until the time of sowing ceased, and they sowed their land, and that year they brought enough grain home and eat and were satisfied. All right, so the word went out.
Yeah, so people are beginning to look toward him for help and direction, right?
Even though he was young, it kind of sounds like a little bit like Moroni in the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
Because he was so young when he took command of all the armies. Like these days, no one would do that. No one would be a general at 26.
Right.
But he had that ability.
Yeah, well, he's still 14.
I know.
Well, he's 15.
Okay. Oh, so that makes it
because there's only been a year. It's only been a year.
He totally can do it now. He turned 15. That was the magic. 15. That was the magic of it.
It must be the magic. Okay, so Abram is showing at this age why he is chosen to become Abraham.
Okay, so here's another thing. Yes. Isn't it interesting that just like him, Joseph Smith was also 14 when all of this happened?
Yeah.
There is the 14 like a magical age for guys? I don't know. Or is it just young enough? Is it just young enough that they're teachable and can move forward with all of it, that there's a belief there? And if you get it too much later, you start to be a little, I don't know, unteachable. Because you think, oh, I'm the big man. I can do this. I know this. I know this. Yeah. But at 14, it just seems that you're still the boys are teachable.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess it's interesting. That will be interesting to see what that means down the road.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And in the first year of the 5th week, Abram taught those who made implements for ox, the artificers in wood,
Mm-hmm.
and they made a vessel above the ground, facing the frame of the plow, in order to put the seed therein on. And the seed fell down therefrom upon the share of the plow, and was hidden in the earth, and they no longer feared the ravens.
Ah, smart.
And after this manner they made vessels above the ground on all the frames of the plows, and they sowed and tilled all the land according as Abram commanded them, and they no longer feared the birds. And you know what's interesting here is we still do it exactly the same way.
I know. I was just going to say that I watch a lot of farming things because I have an affinity to tractors. That is probably, I get really excited about them, and I love to see the machinery work. And that is exactly how it's still done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's but just machinery.
Yeah, but nobody thinks, why is it done that way? Necessarily, but here it's like the birds were taking the seed. Mestama was messing it up and causing a famine, and he's like, I will command the birds to leave, and then we will use our ingenuity to figure out how to move forward and not have a problem. That's the interesting part.
Yeah. And what's interesting about this is they were taught a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. God, I think it's interesting how people think that God just leaves us down here, but he didn't. As we've learning in this, we're seeing in the Apocrypha how much God had a part of Adam and Eve's life, and Noah's life, and all of these prophets' lives, right? And what's interesting is we've lost all of some of that information, right?
Yes.
We've lost a lot of information.
Yes, we have.
They knew how to read the sky. They knew how to do all of these things, right?
Yes.
And use it for good.
Yes.
But we've lost a lot of information, and we've had to relearn it, whatever. But this was never lost. Is that
no? This part wasn't.
This was never lost. We still do exactly this.
Mm-hmm. And it does save it from pesky animals that are going to steal the seed. Mm-hmm. So it puts it deep in the earth. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. I think that's interesting to me.
Well, I like to say that in reading some of this stuff and just in life, looking back in history, you hear a lot of common things. Like when it comes to Noah, a lot of civilizations, as we've said, have this deluge story where the earth was covered in water. And I always think about it as the game of telephone that you played growing up, where you say a sentence, you whisper it to the person next to you, they go ahead and repeat it, and you see if your sentence came out the exact same way by the end of like 20 people. Did it make its way?
Yeah.
Most of the time, it does not make its way. Sometimes if the messaging is simple, but let's admit we like to make it hard and say a sentence that might be hard to repeat. And sometimes I have to go back and go, so what in life right now is part of the game telephone that made it through? What made it through? Apparently, how to plow a field made it through.
Yeah.
Interesting. And that one seems a good thing to do because you got to eat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You got to eat. So interesting.
Because before here, they just threw the seed on the ground.
Yeah. No one in their right mind would be like, that's the best way to sow. In fact, we wouldn't even call it sowing seed. It'd be, you spread it around.
No.
Good luck with that. And now it's like you sow the seed, you work to get it down there to have a better harvest.
I know some people do their gardens, not food gardens, but plant gardens. They'll just throw the seed out, but they always put dirt on top of it. So it's not, they're not organizing this flower goes here, this flower goes here. But the point is that they used to just leave them like that.
Right.
But these guys will do that. They'll just throw it out there. And so you have random flowers, but they are always putting stuff on top of it. Right. So it's not, the seed's not being left on top.
Right.
So this is kind of that same concept without having to get down and do it every single time.
Right.
So that's interesting to me.
I wonder what other things we might find have made their way through, because we don't really read the skies. No.
Not as much.
Not as much, unless you want to go into astrology, if you think that is kind of some part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have an opinion on reading the stars and doing like the day you were born, an hour, and doing a star chart for you and what that means. I'm not, that is not a part of my life. I think what somebody might tell me is like, oh, interesting, but not that I'm living my life or understanding myself fully by that. I just find it interesting that people believe that they can do that, but there was a lot of information. Is that a small, tiny part from the watchers that made it through? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they used to use the sky a lot. Yeah. Of course, in sailing and stuff like that, but they don't even have to do that anymore.
I know, right?
With all of our instruments and stuff. Yeah. But what I think is interesting is I've listened to some, and now I cannot remember his name, but he's like a scholar. Who's also in astrology type stuff. And what's interesting is how, if you look at the events, the major events like Christ's birth, Christ's death, the second, the restoration, all of the events in the restoration, a lot of those coincide with some of these signs in astrology in the stars and in the sky that they're now finding they correspond. And this guy is talking about how there's a lot that correspond with what is happening in the skies.
Interesting.
And match up to what was happening in the skies with a lot
back
of things
then
that happened in Christ's time too. So that to me is really interesting. But other than that, we don't really use the skies like we used to. I mean, like we read in the life of Adam and Eve, excuse me, the life of Adam and Eve, that Eve needed Noah, and she prayed it out or screamed it out, and Noah read it in the skies.
Adam read it in the skies.
Read it in the sky. Excuse me.
You have a thing for Noah today.
I do. But Adam saw it in the sky and came to her,
right?
Because he read it in the sky. So there was and I think that was how God communicated with them. Is what I'm thinking. And then things had to kind of changed, because that's not how we
just
anymore.
Like we've been talking about this time issue in here that we don't fully understand. We are not biblical scholars, we are not apocryphal scholars, we are just reading this and trying to see what comes of it and what we can get out of it for ourselves, and to share that with everyone here. But it is interesting because it's as if it switched from that to a consistent, constant, it's the same stars. We can predict it exactly. We can, it feels like in reading this, I'm going to say it as a feeling, or I think something changed.
Yeah. And that's what I think we're going to hopefully see, because
we move forward.
There has to be more of a veil on their minds, because we don't have any of that now, right? And we now have to communicate through prayer and through our feelings. We can't read the sky. So, and maybe that's something we can work towards as we gain a relationship with God, right?
Right. Maybe.
But that's not where we're at right now. And so I'm thinking, if it's in these writings, that we're going to see what ended up happening. I don't think God closed the heavens, right?
Right.
But he needed to block things off because the watchers were doing too much damage. And they still kind of are, right? So I'm wondering if there is a time when he says, okay, I'm closing this up here a little bit more.
Right. I'm just going to look up really quick here. If that, because I swear I've heard it before. In the Bible, God closes the heavens as a form of judgment for people's sins. This act is a demonstration of God's power over nature and his ability to punish or bless people based on that. Where does it come up, though? Oh, it mentions closed heavens in 2 Chronicles, in Deuteronomy, 1 Kings, 2 Chronicles, and Zechariah. Interesting. Could that be, and I'm just throwing it out there as a question, I don't know. Could it be that him saying he closed the heavens is that's what he was referring to?
Maybe.
That the heavens are now fixed and the information is not there to be read.
Yeah.
I don't know. Interesting question, though. As we move forward, I can't wait to see more of what. Now, just to let everyone know, Myrna and I look over things, but we don't like to go too far into it because we want to be in this with you, discovering this for the first time. Yeah. So you really do get you get our gut reactions to things and our questions and stuff. And we hope that you guys continue to enjoy Myrna and Jenn read the Apocrypha as we continue down this road. And as always, really subscribe, let people know about it if you think it's of interest. And we will be here next week, and the next week after that, we have a lot of chapters of Jubilee. I'm just going to say we're going to be at Jubilees for a while.
We're not even halfway through.
We're not even halfway through here. There's 50
or even
of
a fourth,
them.
I don't think.
We have a ways to go. So continue on this journey with us. We're so excited.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us. We will see you next week. Have a good week. Bye, guys.
Bye.